Hello, everybody. It's George from Ireland. Welcome back to the channel. More horrifying news from the Gaza conflict. And that was just yesterday that Tel Aviv said they're stopping all humanitarian aid entering Gaza. So that is a blatant breach of international law, particularly humanitarian law. That's no food, no medicines, no medical equipment, and so on. So a lot of people are already malnourished. Some of them will die, particularly elderly people, particularly babies, and so on, because they talk about over 50,000 Palestinian civilians murdered by the Israeli so-called defense force. Some shot, sometimes some killed by explosions directly, or just the buildings falling on them, things like that. But there are also people who've died through lack of medicine, food, lack of potable water, things like that. The traumas brought on heart attacks and so forth. Now, Israel's trying to make this conditional on Hamas complying with its demands, which is illegal. It's got to be unconditional. And Israel's saying, oh, well, they're using this to support their operations. How could they possibly do that? Now, everybody needs to eat, and that means Hamas um, militants too. So presumably they are eating something, as well as people who are not members of Hamas. And even Israel acknowledges that the great majority of Palestinian men in Gaza, let alone women and children, are not members of Hamas. So, okay, insofar as they are sustaining their lives, that really is supporting their operations. So, this is preposterous, sick, and criminal, but I'm sad to say, totally unsurprising. And they've done this before, made the passage of humanitarian aid conditional on complying with their demands. I mean, I've long said it. I would like to see all hostages on both sides released unconditionally. Israel has jailed children as young as 13 years old, given them very, very long sentences, in some cases, life imprisonment. I'll say it again, life imprisonment for minors. And so it goes on. So it's terrible. Now, whilst there was this peace in Gaza, Israel was still attacking the West Bank, killing Palestinians there, kidnapping them, and so on. So the truce was painstakingly negotiated by the United States, Qatar, and Egypt. That ended on Saturday. So anyway, President Trump's envoy Steve Witkoff said, "Let's extend it," but that hasn't happened. So this is trying to blackmail people. We're going to starve your children to death until you give us what I want. So they're meant to be another tranche of hostage releases. So far, 33 hostages were released over the past few weeks in exchange for 1,900 Palestinians. That started on the 19th of January. And the state of Israel told the preposterous lie that so much aid had come in over the past 6 weeks that it can keep Gaza going for 6 months. I mean, come on, they can only get so many trucks down the road. Obviously, some racists in Israel were disrupting this, destroying some of the food convoys and so on, and trying to starve people like that. Now, Israel often says that Hamas is a terrorist organization and that most people in Gaza don't support it. Well, if that's true, then the people of Gaza have got no way to stop Hamas doing whatever they're doing. Apart from the IDF, they're the only one with the guns. So they're at their mercy. So you can't blame the ordinary Palestinian people in Gaza, but they're going to be starved to death because of it. Um, so it's completely indiscriminate. And we know if there is a scrap for food, is the toughest, the most merciless, they're going to get it. Not the elderly, not infants, not those who are feeble, not pregnant women, and so on. So it really is grossly inhumane and sadistic. So the dead bodies are meant to be removed and things like that. It's just so much rebuilding. Hamas wants to go on to say phase 2 of a ceasefire, and they can't agree with that. They thought that there could be a ceasefire because the Muslim holy month of Ramadan is coming up, as in no eating, drinking, or taking medicine during daylight hours for adults, exemptions for children, pregnant women, I think breastfeeding women, people with certain medical conditions, and they can make it up, and other times of year when they're fit to bear it. And Jewish Pesach is coming up in a few weeks' time as well. So it's all deeply depressing. So it's thought that at least 24 hostages are still alive, and then a proof of life has been given. They estimate that 35 of them have died, so the reigns of the dead have gone. So goodness. so many deaths and so few people allowed out. What on earth is to happen? So yeah, just rampant war criminality by the Netanyahu administration, and nary a word of criticism from most Western governments. The Trump administration is more viciously anti-Palestinian than possibly any U.S. administration history, and including someone as utterly barbaric and sadistic as Bill Clinton, a mass murderer. And the Germans and the Austrians don't raise their voice for humanitarians. Obviously, individuals do, and that's laudable because the Holocaust be thrown back at them. Okay, but it's simply racist to say that Germans can't opine at anybody else for things that happened a very long time ago. And the Holocaust, I'm not downplaying or denying it. I mean, that's sort of about 80 years ago, and yes, it was monstrous, but no German alive today was involved in that. Even elderly Germans were children at the time, so they shouldn't be punished to the fourth or the fifth generation or something like that. The fact that someone's German, which makes absolutely no difference to his or her right to express a view on this and to defend human rights. And so it's really it's trying to say that there's some sort of hereditary guilt, and so on. And I realize there's institutional individual guilt, but it can't be national guilt. People shouldn't be punished because of what someone of his or her nationality did. The United Kingdom aiding and abetting what Israel is doing. The Republic of Ireland, well, I'm very proud to say, as an Irishman, we at least have said something to try and advocate for the humanity of the Palestinians. Some European governments have, but many others have been more than complicit in what's been going on, these monstrous crimes against humanity. Well, when will it end? One of the few rays of hope is Netanyahu, by his pitiless barbarism, has brought the Palestinian state a little bit closer, insofar as more countries have recognized Palestine as a sovereign state, which it indubitably is, has the right to by any measure. Well, thank you for watching my channel. Make sure you subscribe on Patreon, donate PayPal, georgecallahan79@gmail.com. I don't want anyone to be mistreated for his or her nationality, ethnicity, race. Jewish people have suffered appallingly down the centuries. Of course, they should never be mistreated. What the Israeli government is doing is obviously in contradiction with the fine humanitarian principles of Judaism, and obviously the Islamic principles of humanitarianism as well. No one should be mistreated on these grounds. That ought to go without saying, and it's not anti-Semitic to uphold international law. And starving civilians to death is not Israel defending itself. So we won't allow them to get away with that excuse. Hamas has got only small arms. They're not an existential threat to Israel, which is a nuclear power. That really is preposterous. And this right to defend yourself bites back. Goodbye.